crypto could be another avenue in terms of your portfolio. You have your real estate, you have your VCs, you have your money market, your S&P 500, you have all that stuff. But I'm definitely a big favor of allocating some type of financial number into blockchain and Web3 and crypto because I feel like it's the future of finance.
This episode is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great crypto platform that makes it easy to buy, sell, and stake crypto assets. Uphold has over 300 plus cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin and all the top altcoins, and they offer a crypto staking on over 19 crypto assets. I've been a user of the platform for many years. They are safe and reliable. They don't commingle or lend out your crypto funds, and they are 100% reserve. You can review their transparency report. Uphold also offers an amazing rewards program where you can earn up to 5.25% on stablecoins. This rewards program also allows you to get 24-hour early access to new tokens that they list. And to participate, you just simply have to open the app once per month, deposit $50 once per month, and trade $50 once per month. And the stablecoins that they support includes Ripple's RLUSD. You can earn up to 5% on that stablecoin and 5.25% on USBC. So if you'd like to learn more about Uphold and all the great services they offer, visit the link in the description. Hey everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast. I'm your host, Tony Edward, and joining me is NBA champion and Chief Content Officer at TracyAI, the one and only Tristan Thompson. Tristan, great to have you.
Tony, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Tristan, it's kind of surreal to be speaking with you. We were talking before the recording. I've watched you play ball for years, watched the Cavs, great memories with the 3-1 comeback against the Warriors in 2016. And now we're going to talk crypto. Maybe you can tell us, how did you discover Bitcoin and what was your journey to crypto?
Yeah, I think my journey to crypto was kind of, there's been like different layers of like, when was the entry point of me entering the space? But in terms of the deep dive happened about 2 years ago. But prior to that, it was crazy. It was about 2015. A friend of mine's mentioned Bitcoin, and he said to me, it's very simple. There's a friend of mine from Toronto. I've known him since I've been a little kid. He's like, hey, the amount of money you go spend out when you go out to dinners and the nightclub, just take that, whether it's $3,000, $5,000, and just take that because you're going to spend it anyways. Go get you some Bitcoin. Just take that 5,000, get you as much Bitcoin as you can, and just hold it. And it's gonna be the new form of digital currency, right? And obviously back then at the age of, 24, 25, you're like, yeah, like you're not paying attention. You're like, okay, bro, this is like great message. Might not have been the best messenger to this kind of early gospel, you may say. But that was kind of like the first time I can remember. But obviously, 2 years ago, really diving into the space and immersing myself in the ecosystem and community. And I always think about that conversation with him. And I remember when I started tweeting about crypto on my Twitter, he said, I told you years ago, little bro, I'm glad you're in it now. So it's a crazy, it's very funny, right? It's like, I always relate to like the barber shop, right? Your barber always has the best ideas and multi-billion-dollar ideas, but you're like, bro, like, why don't you just do it yourself? Why are you telling me? But it's life works crazy, and at the end of the day, it's still early.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good friend, man, giving you the advice. And, did it take you like maybe years after before you bought some Bitcoin and crypto?
Yeah, it took about 6 years later down the road. It was really during COVID when I had a meeting with my financial advisors, one of the biggest institutions in the world. They're buying a lot of Bitcoin, but back then they told me it was very volatile, and they told me, we've managed trillions of dollars. We're on the New York Stock Exchange. If you put these pieces I'm giving you together, you'll know who I'm talking about. But they said it's too volatile, and they kind of pushed it away and was not really open to me being a custodial and a consumer at the time. And for me, for athletes in general, I think we put a lot of trust into financial advisors and managers because at the end of the day, we are the master's class PhD in sports, but like any team, if you don't know something, you want to hire people around you to kind of put you in the best position. So at the time you think that, and come to find out, they're all over social media months later that they're buying all this Bitcoin. So to me, it was like, I'm definitely onto something, but that just shows you how these centralized institutions love to kind of pigeonhole the consumer so that they keep their value and keep control at the end of the day.
Yeah, well put. And I've seen Jamie Dimon as well as Larry Fink of BlackRock,
Ding,
and
ding, ding.
they trash Bitcoin, right? Index of money laundering, scam, I'll fire anybody, and now come buy my ETF, right?
Mhm. And it just showed you, just like it's kind of like the reality of business and the world, right? Like everybody rather, like, it's like what decentralized banks, and this is why I kind of, I'm frustrated with the old system, but I'm so excited about, especially the Trump administration, being in favor of blockchain and Bitcoin, is that decentralized banks are these old dinosaurs, right? They want to pigeonhole the consumers, pigeonhole the market, and the people that work these 9 to 5 jobs each and every day. And, you go into Wells Fargo or these banks and they say, hey, give us your money, we'll put it in a money market and we'll give you 4.5%. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But come to find out, I can go in these yield pools, whether it's a Moonwell, an Aerodrome, and I can be in a USDC, BTC pool, and I can make 1% a day depending on the market and the APYs, right? So, you telling me 4%, I can make that in probably less than 3 weeks or a month just yielding, right? So to me, that's like, okay, imagine how much money these banks are making from your money, right? They're only giving you 4.5%, and
Right.
you're so happy. Well, on the backs of your money, they're probably making 10+% on your APYs. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like, let's take back control, and kind of really has been my mantra in the space is giving back the financial freedom to the working class people.
Absolutely. Well put. Now, how are you spreading the knowledge that you've acquired? I mean, you're well versed in crypto and blockchain now, with other NBA players, because one of the challenges we've seen with even like Allen Iverson and Antoine Walker, who shared their stories of running into financial hardship because they didn't do a great job in the onset with their contracts and saving their money. Now, Bitcoin becomes this almost amazing, even better savings device. Can NBA players put their contract 50% cash, 50% Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, you heard the story, and I think, one thing I will give a lot of credit to the NBA is that they've created this new program for guys that retire, whatever age you choose to retire. And this is some good context. From the day you retire till the age of 55 or 60, when you want to kick it to your 401k, they've created something called the NBA post-career plan, where
Mm.
basically the NBA, every year you're on an NBA team on a roster, whether it's half or full time, the NBA makes a contribution to this account. And this account, it doesn't, you don't gain any yields from it, but at least you're able to contribute, and the NBA is able to, and it's protected and safe. So that's kind of a roadmap, so where guys can have some type of financial security before tapping into that 401k. But in terms of with this Bitcoin and the idea of definitely allocating contracts and salaries into Bitcoin, I'm a big in favor of that. I think the best way to go about it, or the more digestible way of going about it, because at the end of the day, with athletes, you have a whole team. Every athlete has a whole team of people behind them that aren't versed with blockchain and crypto and Web3, right? Most of these financial advisors are in their older age, 50 and above. So
Yeah.
technology, blockchain to them is so foreign and it makes them uncomfortable, right? For these people that have been in the financial industry for years, they're intimidated. They're intimidated by Web3 and crypto. So they're not going to push their clients as much. But obviously, for a guy like myself, be able to educate, whether it's through Twitter, whether it's through doing speaking engagement, whether it's even in a locker room. I'm in a locker room, and my teammates see me in yield pools and yielding Sol and USDC and on Radium and Orca, right? So they ask these questions, and I kind of explain to them. I say, the money. I think when you look at a portfolio, right,
Mm.
all the humans that have the greatest wealth, right? They have diversity.
Yeah.
And I think, crypto could be another avenue in terms of your portfolio. You have your real estate, you have your VCs, you have your money market, your S&P 500, you have all that stuff. But I'm definitely a big favor of allocating some type of financial number into blockchain and Web3 and crypto because I feel like it's the future of finance. And if you see when you go overseas to Asia and Europe, you see how much crypto is integrated into those systems. Using the stable coins. You can go to Dubai and use stable coins to buy a house, a condo, luxury items, like even just buying groceries, right? And I think that's kind of the next step for America. And I think you need people like myself and others that people can trust to kind of speak that word.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point of financial advisors, because I've had my own experience with that. My wife and I, we have a financial advisor, did not want to get into crypto, can't touch it, wouldn't recommend it. I did it on my own, and that's paid off even more than my TradFi investments. So this is the direction the puck is heading in.
Yeah, no, it's heading there, and I think like it's great to see now even on the Nasdaq they're starting to recognize blockchain and crypto, whether it's Circle, it's Coinbase, it's so on and so forth, and the fact that they're understanding that is that they see the value and the belief and where the world's going. Right at the end of the day, I'm a father of three kids, and I truly believe that when my kids want their first, whether it's their first home or their first, transportation, they're going to use a stable coin. They are going to use crypto to purchase this. So for me as a parent and as a father, seeing what the future has in store, it's only right for me to kind of prepare the youth. And that's what I believe. I think it starts from the grassroots level. It starts from the middle schools and elementary schools of teaching this at an early and in a digestible way, right? Because this is where the future of finance is going.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have the same mindset when my 7-year-old daughter, I have some Bitcoin I'm never selling. It's going to go to her inheritance because, the
Do the
thing.
same thing, by the way. I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing
Yeah.
the same thing. I have the ledger right here. I'm setting it up for my son. It's his birthday, July 27th. And I'm saying, for your birthday, son, I'm going to get you some Bitcoin. I'm going to put it away, seed phrase mom, put it up in the safe. He's good.
Yeah, it's like buying Apple, in the what late 70s or 80s, or Microsoft. That's how I view it. It's like this is going to grow and obviously grow even more because it's a truly global asset class. Anyone around the world with internet connection can access Bitcoin. So it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think, and more important, it brings stability to these underprivileged countries. If you look at countries like Brazil, where their currency is so volatile, or India or Pakistan, or even in Africa, those countries, right? There's hardworking people that are doing some amazing, great things. And, those currencies are so volatile. One day the president might do something and the currency goes to zero, right? So being able to be paid in stable coins, it brings more balance to our world and the world economy in general, right? Where now, for instance, with me, I have a Jamaican background. I have family in Jamaica, and
Mm,
the biggest issue is to send money, right? Going to Western Union and sending the money and the whole process, the taxes, and then even the safety, right? I've had a scenario with a family member where I've sent money Western Union, and there's people outside ready to rob a family member of mine because they know they're picking up money,
right.
and they know who their family member is, right? So to me, this is a way to bring more stability to all race, all human beings, all worlds in general. And it's kind of really the nucleus to combine everyone's world into one.
Yeah, and I can share my experience on that. I have family in Guyana in South America, part of the West Indies, if you want to call it that. And same thing, I send them money. If I could send them stablecoin just through a digital wallet, settles instantly, lower fees, and they can earn yield on it if they don't want to spend it. It would be much better than doing MoneyGram and Western Union, which robs you. They take an arm and a leg with the fees.
Yeah, and you already know you're a West Indian boy, so you already know I'm man. You know.
Exactly. Now, Tristan, obviously you're educating people around you in the locker room and so forth. Are there plans to take it higher to the Adam Silvers of the world, in the NBA circles?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one thing I give a lot of credit to Adam Silver and the NBA family is that they've always been forward thinking, right? And they understand. And for me, with this education, whether it's with my podcast or with me, on Twitter or just doing speaking engagements, I want to build this rapport and profile so that when I go sit down with Adam Silver and say, hey, we can use blockchain to connect the world even more to sports. And it's always about growing the business of basketball. And this is just another avenue. Imagine you're able to use, there's a kid in India that wants to buy a Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. Instead of him having to go on the on-ramp fiat and going through all those, like having American Visa credit card, he's able to use a stable coin and able to purchase a jersey. Or even for fans, like being able to pay for parking with just tap pay with stable coins or buying memorabilia. You're able to, there's so much ways where with blockchain and crypto, you can get so creative, which is going to improve fan engagement, which is going to improve notoriety to the league, make it even more of a global sport. And that's what we want at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I don't know if you heard about this, but Spencer Dinwiddie years ago tried to tokenize himself on his contract. He might have been kind of early, because crypto is still finding its legs. Do you think that might be something in the future, like players can tokenize themselves and do creative things with their fans?
I mean, I think that's kind of the narrative right now, right? I think Spencer Dinwiddie had a great vision. I think it was just before his time, and that happened, and that's okay because in order to get the brain working or getting people to just understand and see the vision, someone's got to go out first and kind of put themselves in the chopping block. And for him, tokenize himself. I mean, what's the narrative right now? Everyone wants to take everyone wants to tokenize everything, these RWAs, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, that's the narrative right now. Obviously, a couple months ago it was the AI, and obviously AI is coming back around right now because it's so helpful and it's kind of the future. But in terms of tokenization, being able to tokenize anything, you could take anything. You could tokenize a championship brick from 2016. You could tokenize apartment complex and create this program where you can stake it and create earns and yields on these properties. You don't have to live at the property, but you could almost have a form of ownership when you're tokenizing it. And I think that's kind of how we're going to onboard and get mass adaptation and mass adoption to the Web2 world. And the DJs say they're in the trenches, the normies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brave new world and so many opportunities. And I think of, people who in the past didn't have the financial education or didn't have the avenue to participate in the financial markets, whether they're from low income areas where maybe the school or the resources weren't there. Now, because they just have a smartphone, they can set up a digital wallet and participate in different ways and earn. It just opens up a ton of opportunities. And you mentioned, outside the United States as well, there's many countries that, they don't have these opportunities.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's kind of part of my mission, right? My mission is to be able to, instead of you having the guy that works at the concession stands at the Rocky Mortgage Arena where we play at, instead of him going to Fidelity and H&R Block and going to give his money that he wants to invest, instead of him going there to give it to somebody and they take your tax and fees and they're cutting you by the legs, being able to open a wallet, whatever wallet, a Phantom, a Trust wallet, whatever it is, opening a wallet, being able to just take your money and put it there and yield it and put it in these pools where, like a Moonwell or USDC pool where, you can get, 10% yield on your money. These are just other great protocols that are out there that you could put your money and park it there and get better returns, but you can also use it and spend it at the same time, right? So, I think for me in this space is that, the reality is this, people, if it's me or Joe 225 giving, some financial literacy in terms of crypto, the average person is going to probably want to listen to me. And I think for me, that was kind of a light bulb in my head where I can actually be this vessel to give this financial literacy and help onboard people because at the end of the day, I've built this rapport as a professional athlete, whether it's helping out in the community, building basketball courts, my epilepsy foundation, and just being a recognizable face. People are more in line and inclined to want to hear what I have to say and might take that advice or take those tools and use it to their own benefit for their everyday.
Yeah, well said. And you're doing a great job, man. I listened to some of your interviews and you know what you're talking about. Sometimes some people may say, hey, I like crypto, but they don't know to understand technology, but you absolutely get it. And on that note, you launched TracyAI. Tell us about this, how it's using AI and blockchain.
Yeah, no. So TracyAI, for me, obviously being an NBA player and being in sports and for me, being an NBA player, my natural my natural habitat is being a builder, being a part of something, creating something, building something, right? To get to the NBA, you got to start at grassroots level. You got to build yourself up to be good enough to be a Division I player. Then now you build yourself up to be an NBA player. Once you're an NBA player, you got to build yourself up to sustain and play for a long time. And now we're talking, 14 years and continue to keep playing. So for me, I wanted to build something in the space that can kind of be something that I can be proud of, right? The angel investing and do all that, it's great. Of course, doing that as well, but being able to create something that you feel like can help a sector in your world that you feel like there's a void. And in sports, it's kind of the one area that hasn't used AI to its full ability or capabilities. You see with Amazon using AI to hire employees. You see, telemarketers using AI to take their phone calls. Instead of having 100 people at a call center, you can have, AI robots that can do this for you, right? So for me, with sports, and funny enough, Daryl Morey, the president of the 76ers, he mentioned at a conference that he used AI to help build on his roster. Yes, granted, yes, the Sixers didn't have the greatest season and they wasn't that well, but that just shows you that AI is going to be ingrained into sports.
Yep.
So it's like, why not be the first and the pioneer? So that's how Tracy came together and be able to kind of merge the technology that we have in NBA, whether it's stats and analytics and high level analytics, where you can't just go on NBA.com and get these stats. Being able to put it in the palm of your hand and have it on your cell phone device.
Mm. I'm so fascinated by AI agents and how they're going to help us in our lives in different ways. And I would love to have stuff like use TracyAI any moment I have a question or want to analyze something about the game. And it's just faster than having to go to a search engine and go to a website and dig through and filter to just have it like that. So I love it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, that's like, my coach, Kenny Atkinson, when I was telling him about this idea, he's like, it's amazing because he gets so frustrated when he's at home at night. Obviously, on the East Coast, these games start later. So if you're on the East Coast and you're watching a West Coast game, you're going to be up till about 11 to 1 a.m. You're probably not going to sleep till 1 a.m. So for Kenny, he was saying, it frustrates me because when I'm watching these games and I want certain stats and analytics, I got to email our statistician. Hopefully he's awake. He's got to pull up the numbers and the data and forward it back to him. Realistically, he's not getting that information until on his desk the next morning. But for a coach, if you have a back-to-back or you have an early game the next day, you want to be able to create this game plan so that when you come see the team, you're well prepared, right? So for me, it was like I can use TracyAI to kind of help even the coaching staff, helping the front office, and then even helping the regular consumer where they don't have to wait for a statistician to give them information. They can get it right away.
To walk us through kind of the process. So let's say I'm a person listening to this. What would be the next step to use this platform?
Yeah, so you go tracy.tech and you literally right now it's set up where it's mobile app friendly, where literally you can go on and literally ask her any question. Where we even been tested when we were going through the beta and testing on testnet, we were even just doing like, hey, like, why did Steve Nash get traded from the Dallas Mavericks? And this is like old NBA spot questions.
Yeah.
And she said, there was a young German kid that averaged X amount of points per game. He goes by Dirk Nowitzki. So the franchise had to make a decision on who's going to be a franchise player and decided to go. Like she has that savant and that knowledge because we've pulled all the APIs from basketball, from all the teams, where we have this reference, right? And for the average consumer, it's like the barbershop conversation, right?
Yeah.
You think the Nets are great. The guy at the barbershop thinks the Knicks are great. And you're like, you can give an example, like, what is the Nets missing in order to compete with the Knicks next year? And she'll be very honest, because she's a little sassy. She might say, you're very far off with the roster because this was a non-playoff contending team. So you might need to make roster changes. But here are some guys that have had good seasons for you that they could be potential players to help you get to the playoffs.
I love that. Obviously, I love basketball, and you mentioned my Knicks. Like, and I would love to do scenarios like that and ask the AI, "Hey, what missing role or position is needed for the Knicks to have a higher net rating, or blah blah blah, right? Things like that, and just go into the details." So my question for you next is, this is great. Are you planning to expanding it to other sports like baseball or football and things like that?
Most definitely. Listen, we know that the World Cup is coming, 2026 is right around the corner, right? So for me, I almost vision this as like the AI X-Men, right? Like that's how I envision, like create my own X-Men or Avengers of a bunch of AI agents where, we have Tracy doing basketball, but maybe her brother Trevor does soccer or European football, right? And then you have her cousin that's Tamara, she does tennis. Like I want to build this out because I understand how important and vital AI can help sports. Not, and I always want to stress that because a lot of people when they hear this or they're wondering, are you trying to nick out the statistician? No, I think at the end of the day, to make everyone's job better, sometimes you need assistance, you need help, and it makes everyone's job more efficient. So I want to create these AIs where they help grow the game, and not just from a professional level, but from a grassroots level where we're using AI agents. And I use this example when I spoke last week was that you can use these AI agents to evaluate grassroots talent. Imagine there's a kid in Kenya that could be the next Hakeem Olajuwon, my bad, and he doesn't have the resource. He doesn't have the ball is life and the overtime elite that they have in America, which showcases kids. But if his community creates this nucleus and uses the TracyAI agent to how his stats match with other high school kids, that can create notoriety and create eyes on this young player, which is going to cause college teams or high school teams to want to inquire about this young fellow because I want to help the people that don't have the access be able to gain the access.
So can both the average Joe, but also league executives use this same technology, or is there like a regular version and then a premium version or something like that?
Yeah, no. So for me, I view like ChatGPT, right? I think ChatGPT has done a great job in terms of having, your free and available and accessible app. Then you have your pro level. But for me, I look at more so is that with me creating this and building something, I'm more worried about getting as much information as possible to the people that have the free, right? Because at the end of the day, in order to build that cult following and that real global audience, you got to give people access to use this whatever they like, right? So I don't want to pigeonhole the product for just like there's certain information that's going to be on a pro. Like I'd rather give a lot and give as much as I can because once you build that up, then you can add the staking, the earning, use for earns and rewards and the pro level. Like once you build that foundation and build the basement to the house, then you can add all the nice, interior decorating trinkets.
Tristan, I don't know what you think about this, but it just came to mind. What if you had like LeBron or MJ come in and sit down, they do a data dump, they become a data set, right? How they think about the game and so forth. I know some of this is sprinkled throughout the web in articles and videos, but you ask them certain questions, that becomes a data set in the AI, and people can speak to them in a AI persona, so to speak.
How about this? So we already have it set up where in Tracy, you can ask her a question about, so we'll give an example. Like tonight, there's there's an NBA finals tonight.
Mhm.
OKC versus Indiana, right?
Mhm.
Regardless of what wins the game, right? You could ask Tracy, can you give me a breakdown of tonight's game in Rick Carlisle's perspective? And she's going to quote all Rick Carlisle's quotes, quotables, the way he talks, his cadence, his ideas, how he approaches questions. And she can answer the question back to you in Rick Carlisle's perspective. So we really have it set up where they can give coaching perspective on results, games, or just basketball questions.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. I can't wait to play
The fact
around.
that you said that, I was like, oh wow, like I'm like we already had the coaching side already built out for that. But imagine now, and especially how great technology is, like you can build this out where you can basically get the idea and perspective of every player that's ever played in the NBA, right? Of course, some guys have more quotables than others, but that doesn't mean, at some point, most of the NBA players, they were stars at some level. So he might not have as much quotes as the NBA player, but he might have more from college or his social media, where he does videos, the way his cadence is his enunciation, his vocabulary, his verbiage. So that just helps advance this to another level where, like you said, people want to ask those questions, but they can't find Michael Jordan. But you can ask the AI agent to give you a Michael Jordan response.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna geek out on that. I love that. Yeah, because I'll be like, okay, ask MJ, how do you penetrate, get to the basket, blah blah blah, on a triangle offense, blah blah blah, right? Or LeBron, how do you control the pace and all that? Yeah, I would geek out on that, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. It's crazy and it's amazing, fascinating how much technology's grown from the iPhone 1 till now, right? Like it's just like it's crazy.
It's such a brave new world. What's on your roadmap for Tracy AI? Obviously, you got a lot going on, but anything you can share that may be coming up?
Yeah, no, we're just keep building out the technology. We want to keep advancing it. Obviously, with sports, it's live, right? So there's new things always changing, but that's why for us, it's very important for us to stay on top of it. We're just fine tuning a couple of the features because I think when we've already launched, we're all on Twitter, and she's tweeting on her own, and people can engage with her. She'll respond back. So she's fully automated, kind of like an AI XBT. But for us, just keep building out the tech and keep growing. Obviously, it's like Costco, right? You have so many different aisles, right? You have questions where front office can use,
Mm.
player, consumer, but also you have the side that, Tracy right now, she gives her own predictions on games and she's fully out of it. That's all on her. So like, I know people with the prediction markets thing becoming a big thing. It's a big moment in time right now, especially with how great Poly Market did during the elections. People want to incorporate that into sports, and she's got a pretty good record when she gives her predictions. I mean, I was kind of upset she had us losing a couple of games and end up losing against Indiana. I'm like, I created you and you're going against me already. I'm like, what is this?
Wow, that's wild, man. Now that I know that, I'm gonna start looking at, putting my bets here and there, use it for that way. And then, with that, would you then approach like Polymarket to do an API pull of like data and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the opportunity is endless. I think,
Mm,
Tracy, I'm creating her to become her own entity, right? I
mm,
want to separate myself in terms of like, this is Tracy. Like, if you're doing a deal, it's Tracy, you're getting her, right? Like, because
mm,
that's what's going to happen, right? People are going to hire AI agents to work for these companies. And whether it's these Fortune 100 companies or sports teams, they're going to use these agents. And I want her to be kind of like her standalone product, right? Obviously, I've had the vision and helped with a great team to put this together, but I want her to be kind of her own boss, her own leader in the space, and be able to do great things.
I love it, man. It's amazing, and it's just amazing how you can use this technology in so many different ways. Now, aside from Tracy, are you doing any other projects? I know this is probably your baby, and or are you doing anything with crypto as far as businesses are concerned?
Yeah, no, I think I am definitely interested in a lot of companies, and I've helped whether it's give some advisory to a couple companies. One called Corn Chain. They're L2 that basically you can use your Bitcoin and wrap it and have a yield and work for you. I've done some advisory stuff and done some cool things with them. Where it was even like something very simple. Where like we made merch for ETH Denver. Myself and my partner, we run an experiential agency. So we put an event together for Corn during ETH Denver and the Polo Cup out in the Token Dubai. So we put some activations together, created some cool, dope merch that I wore on social media that ended up being on Leak Fits. So it was pretty dope. There's a couple other companies. When I went to Bitcoin Vegas, another company that I was really into and I love what they're doing and their mission was World Mobile, which is basically a
Mm,
telecommunications company on chain. And it's almost like, their whole thing is take back control of your telecom freedom, right? At the end of the day, with these companies, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, they can listen to our phone calls. They can listen to our phone calls and kind of invade our privacy. And the one thing I love about being on chain is that you can gain back that privacy and freedom. And you know what it is. Everyone that's in crypto, whether they're using TG or Signal, and you got to be incognito because of, whether it's privacy or safety or shit, you might have just made a lot of effing money and you just want to keep yourself low key, right? So what Mobile is doing and giving you that protection and freedom, I think it's great for blockchain, but even more so their mission. They were the only people to be able to go out to North Carolina when Pastor had that hurricane.
mm,
They were able to go out there and bring connectivity back to 30,000 people. in a city that had no connectivity. And they actually partnered with Starlink to do that. So, talking to them and hearing their mission, I was like, that's stuff that's actually going to help our world, right? And that's how we grow crypto. That's how we grow the Web3 space where we migrate the Web2 and Web3 where, listen, the goal is I see you have that Bitcoin meter with the numbers. In order to see 7 digits, we're gonna have to onboard a lot of people. We're gonna have to onboard the Web2 community. In order to do that, is protocols and ideas and technology like this, where people are gonna have a cell phone device, and you're not gonna lose service in these dead zones. I live in LA, and when I get through my gated community, I lose service for about 2 minutes. And as a parent, you want your kids to go outside and play. I don't want my kids inside on video games all day. So not being able to get a hold of them, that's scary. So for a company to be able to bring connectivity back to areas that have dead zones, and you don't have to rely on towers, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, well put. The real world utility is so important, not only to change people's lives, but if you want to see more growth and value and price and so forth, you need that adoption. You need real world application. So yeah, absolutely agree with you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you some basketball questions. I couldn't let you go without asking you some basketball questions. So Cavs did amazing last season, as far as regular season. Injury bug hit them. How are you feeling about the next season?
No, I'm excited. Obviously, we had a great regular season. Of course, one thing with the playoffs, it's tough because you gotta. Well, I always tell people, you gotta get kind of lucky. I
Mm.
mean, look at Indiana, right? The last 2 years. Last year, Giannis missed games. Then you play against the Knicks, they were beat up and hurt, ankle injuries. Like they kind of had the perfect storm 2 years in a row, and this year it worked out where they got to the NBA Finals. And listen, I give them credit. They earned it. They took care of business against us, and they took care of business against all the other teams. But you got to get lucky, and then obviously injury bugs played a factor to us with Darius missing the first 2 games and Evan missing game 2. It's tough. You're missing a second team All NBA and 2 All-Stars. It's tough to win games.
Yeah, because I had you guys beating them and possibly going to the finals because, I mean, your team is so well balanced. And obviously, Darius and Donovan, I mean, they were balling out. But uh, I think if you guys run it back, you'd be fine. I mean, just the this regular season record was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was a great season. It was definitely something memorable, and we cherish it. But I think it just keeps us hungry, right? Keeps us hungry, and guys got to know there's another level, right? There's another level to this, right? You get to the second round, that's great and cool, but you got to get now the next step. We got to get to the conference finals. We got to be the Final Four team playing, especially that regular season we have. We got to get to that next level. So I was with Don and Evan last week. We had dinner, and they're motivated, and I was with Darius, about 3 weeks ago. So, our guys are hungry. All-stars are hungry. They know what the goal and mission is, and they know that, we got to do a deep playoff run. So I think we got a lot of hungry Cavaliers right
Mm. Who do you got winning the finals?
now. Who do I put in the finals? It's 2-2 right now.
Yeah.
I believe this. I think if it goes to game 7, I have Indiana winning because at the end of the day, game 7, I always look at that game as it's experience, coaching, and veterans. So I would take Indiana.
Yeah, great point. I definitely agree with you there.
Indiana 7, and I believe if it's in 6 games, OKC can probably pull it off.
Mm. 2016 3-1 comeback against the Warriors, man. What was that like? And were you guys like at the top of the mountain because it wasn't just a championship, it was just massive comeback, breaking history and all that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for us to be able to come back from 3-1, first team ever to do it in NBA history in the finals was definitely something that we're all going to remember and cherish. And it's always funny just meeting people and they're like, I remember that 2016 run because it was so, especially during that time, right? It was just Cavs Warriors every year in the finals going back and forth like two juggernauts. So to
Yeah.
be able to go down 3-1 and with Braun and Kyrie having that game 5 in the Bay, both having 41 points, and then game 6, we're taking care of business, and I had a pretty good game as well.
Yeah.
So, it's something that it was bigger than us as players. Winning, the first thing we all thought about were people from Northeast Ohio that going 52 years without being crowned a champion, a city that has been crowned a champion for that long. And, whether it was the Browns leaving Cleveland to go to Baltimore and winning a Super Bowl 2 years later, or the Indians getting to the World Series multiple times and falling short. For us, that we just wanted to make people in Northeast Ohio feel like they're champions again, and we were able to do that.
Yeah, man. I remember you balling out. I remember seeing you on the rebounds, the LeBron catching you on the pass to roll to the rim. It was just great times. You got a lot of old heads and the young bloods. They're clashing, right? Our era is better. This era sucks. Only 3 points. What are your thoughts on this thing happening? And is it just a natural thing, human beings, right? Get off my lawn, and eventually we, the young bloods, become the old heads, get off my lawn type thing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it's just part of sports, right? You're always going to compare, but I feel like, the NBA is, in terms of comparing the greats, the NBA is definitely bigger on that. They're more big on that. When you look at football, they never say, let's compare Tom Brady and Joe Montana, right? Like they never get these like, I guess maybe they might not run in the media, but I mean, I feel for the NBA, it's always like that. And I say to people, let's pick the goats of each era because I think they all had significant to the where the NBA is now. And it's like LeBron's the goat of his era. MJ was the goat of his era in the '90s, right? And then Magic was the goat of the '80s, right? And him and Bird, right? Because they all played an intricate role to help the game grow, right? Like
Hmm.
Magic and Bird helped the NBA stay afloat as a business. Because if anybody watches those shows, the Showtime, the NBA, a lot of those teams were just not making money. The revenue was terrible. So Magic and Bird made the business of basketball in the green. The business was making money. Then Michael Jordan made the game from just sports, made it entertainment. So now the game is sports entertainment. Now LeBron has taken that entertainment and kind of given it this extra jolt where it's like now it's sports, entertainment. It's like kind of like a meetup now. You do business meetings there. You just take it to where you make it global. LeBron made it global, So like every stone of these greats, that's why they're all goats. They're all goats for different things, right? So that's why I approach it.
Yeah, well put. Man, I still can't get over how LeBron went to all those finals, all those years, and I'm like, how is his body holding up? What is up with this dude? Is it genetics? Is it he does something we don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think one thing is genetics, right? He's an athletic specimen, and he's been blessed by God to have this DNA that's probably one of the best DNAs we've probably seen from mankind before like Tarzan and the cavemen, right? But
Yeah.
I think Remy takes a lot of time. He takes it very serious in terms of his recovery. He's the first guy that's in the cold tub, getting massages, hyperbaric chamber, getting treatment. He is so regimented in terms of his treatment and recovery that he never lets it slip. And it's a real byproduct of like, what they say is cliche, like what you put in is what you get out. But he's actually a byproduct of like what he's put in, it's all coming out now. You see it. At year 22, at 40, playing at the level that he's playing and playing at a high level like this, it just shows you the work he's put in. It's paying off with dividends and tenfold.
That's amazing, man. I hope some people, the younger players, they call him up and try to figure out his nutrition plans and his workouts and recovery, because like he's set the standard and he has the blueprint. And I hope some people are trying to download that.
Yeah, no, and listen, Donovan Mitchell, that's one person. He's probably the second person I've ever ran into that's kind of built out this regimen similar to LeBron's because I think he understands how important his body is, especially with him. He's a freak of nature. So he's got to take care of his body because, those bumps and bruises and falling on the ground and taking them hits, as you get older, that starts to beat up on you. So with him, Donovan's always in the weight room lifting. He's doing his recovery. He's one guy that's very regimented on his recovery, and it's very similar to like LeBron-esque. And, it makes you proud to see that and understand that what he wants is greatness. And, with me being his teammate, I said to him after we lost, I said, man, you deserve so much more. You deserve playing in NBA finals. You deserve playing in the conference finals because you put the work in. And unfortunately, in the sport, a lot of guys that aren't deserving, sometimes get there. And I said to him, you keep doing what you're doing because there's going to be a time where you're going to get to where you want to get to because you're working hard for that reason, and you're going to get to the mountaintop because you put that work in. And the one thing about the basketball guys, they reward the ones that put the work in. So I truly believe, Donovan Mitchell will be in the NBA Finals and be an NBA champion before it's all said and done.
Well put. Tristan, I wish I could keep talking to you, but I know we're coming up on time. So I got some wrap-up questions here for you. First, if you could create your own metaverse, what would the theme be?
Oh, you know what? If I could create a metaverse, the crazy thing, and I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the metaverse because like I like the humans, like physical interaction and like obviously like with COVID, it just showed you how important it was for humans to integrate with each other, right? Like meeting someone face to face, you can help people that are going through depression,
Yeah.
going through anxiety, going through just trauma that they, with the VR, and I love the idea and I love the hype, but with the VR, we're limited. We're limited. Like the interaction, like the touch, feel, hold, we're limited to a degree, right? So, I love the idea, but I think with AI integrating into our everyday life, this is the metaverse. This what we're in living right now. This is the new metaverse, right? This is
Sure.
this is it. This is like what we all envision, right? Instead of the VR, we have it here. We're gonna have robots. We're gonna have robots picking us up in Ubers and the robo cabs and stuff like that. This is it. We're living in it.
Yeah, it's funny because you don't think about it, but to your point, we have these digital extensions, right? We're gonna have all these things. It is like a metaverse.
Yeah.
Okay, rapid fire questions. Favorite food,
Jerk chicken.
favorite musician or band,
Ah, Drake.
favorite movie,
The Godfather.
favorite book.
The Bible.
And when you're not playing ball or working on your AI company and stuff like that, what are you doing for fun?
Watching Yellowstone right now.
Tristan, absolute pleasure, man. I love what you're doing. I love Tracy AI. And like I said, I'm going to geek out on it. And everyone, links will be in the description to go check out everything. But thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thinking Crypto Podcast. Make sure y'all tune in, man. Come on now.